Hey guys, how are you today? It is Bryan, Barron, Director of Skincare Research, Paula's Choice Skincare in Seattle. I'm working remotely from my home studio here in Michigan, here today to talk about retinol. This entire hour is going to be about retinol. You can ask me other things if you have that on your mind related to skincare, ingredients, myths, misleading information, whatever you're feeling today in regards to skin. But I would love to keep the conversation centered on retinol because I know you guys have a lot of questions about this single ingredient. I'm not quite sure how it got to be so confusing, but I could say that about a lot of things when it comes to skincare. Um, I'm going to give you guys a brief overview. How are you today? Um, I did not deliberately match my soda to my clothing. Just happened to be what was in the refrigerator right now. Um, I'm going to give you a brief overview of retinol, um, and then I think a lot of the other questions that I would naturally aim to answer about this ingredient, you'll probably be posting, and so we'll just kind of get to those throughout the hour. We do have several retinol products within the Paula's Choice line, different strengths. We can talk about that. Generally speaking, if you are new to retinol, as in I've never used it before, you want to start with a lower strength just to see how your skin responds. So that would be like a 0.01%, such as what's in our Resist Barrier Repair Moisturizer. If you are more of a seasoned pro with retinol, you've used several different lower strengths, no issues, you're seeing great results, loving it, and you want to see what a higher concentration can do, then we have 0.3%, which just launched, I think just earlier this week or late last week, with our clinical 0.3% retinol, 2% bakuchiol product, bakuchiol being a newer ingredient, a natural plant-derived ingredient, is from the seeds of the babchi plant that's native to India and also cultivated in China. It's part of Chinese medicine. It's part of Ayurvedic medicine. Kind of a cool ingredient, not a direct replacement for retinol. It doesn't exactly work the same way. It's not apples to apples. However, it delivers many of the same visible benefits retinol does, but it has the added benefit of helping to stabilize retinol quite well. And it conveys some soothing, calming benefits that can help people, I'm one of them, tolerate the 0.3% concentration of retinol. But again, let's do a quick overview on what exactly is retinol. It's essentially the entire vitamin A molecule. The retinoids are a family of molecules or ingredients that fall under the umbrella of vitamin A. So retinol, which is what you'll find in our products that contain that ingredient. We use a couple of our products like is it the primer serum? Have retinol palmitate, which is retinol. It's a weaker form of it. It's retinol mixed with palmitic acid. That form actually is found naturally in skin, interestingly enough. But retinol and tretinoin, which is one of the prescription forms of retinol, those are considered first generation retinoids. We have the most longest history, I should say, of research about those two ingredients. Generally speaking, over-the-counter retinol is about 20 times weaker than prescription tretinoin. However, as you increase your strength of retinol, you can get equivalent results to what a prescription tretinoin product, Retin-a would be a brand name, Renova would be a brand name. It's also available and has been for quite some time as a generic, which depending on your health insurance, if your dermatologist prescribes tretinoin for you, you will probably get a generic, and it's perfectly fine. This is not a situation where retinol over tretinoin is one of tolerability, and that retinol is more broadly tolerated. So although you will get more dramatic results faster with the prescription forms of vitamin A, wins the race once daily, once every other day. 4 to 6 weeks of Tretinoin use in that would generally take about 8 to 12 weeks, maybe even a little longer with an over-the-counter retinol product. But I think most of you would feel that the trade-off is worth it because most people can tolerate retinol quite well. There is a phenomenon known, little buffer, well, might be doing a little buffering there. Hold on just a second. Okay, let me disconnect from that. All right, let me say something down here. Can you hear me? Hear me? Let's see what you guys say, if you can hear me. It looks like it's caught up. Oh, it couldn't connect to chat. Can't connect to chat. Okay. Well, let's keep talking. I'm going to keep talking. It seems like the chat function isn't working as far as me being able to talk to you guys that way, but the counter is still going. I apologize for the error. It's something with the buffering and the stream quality. Hopefully it is resolved. What I was going to discuss really quickly before I start getting to your questions was this whole issue around what's called retinal dermatitis. And for some people, as their skin acclimates to retinol, it's an active ingredient. You know, there's no two ways about it. Our skin actually has receptor sites for retinol, and as it penetrates into the uppermost layers of skin, it can find those retinoid receptor sites and attach and start that nice healthy communication that tells that cell and the cells that it interacts with to start behaving in a healthier, younger manner. That process, though, the cell site that the retinol goes to is known as an RAR, or retinoic acid receptor. So as retinol penetrates through skin, it breaks down into its active form, which is retinoic acid. And there's some conversion steps that have to happen within skin for that to happen. The conversion of tretinoin to retinoic acid is much shorter. In fact, tretinoin essentially is retinoic acid that you're putting on your skin in pure form, whereas with retinol, you have to let N-retinaldehyde, and what is the other one that comes up quite a bit? There's retinaldehyde, retinol retinoate. All of those have some amount of conversion steps that pure tretinoin does not. But that lack of conversion and that immediate hit of retinoic acid is what makes tretinoin and similar prescription retinoids like tazarotene less so for adapalene, which is different, but it could still be an issue. That's what makes them more likely to be irritating, and for the irritation, the sensitization to be more pronounced. So what happens is that there are adhesion molecules in skin. There's several different types. The kind that have a role in the retinoic acid receptor chain are known as corneodesmosomes. And when that interaction takes place and the retinol converts to retinoic acid, in the process, some of those corneodesmosomes can become detached. That can send some faulty signals that there's something going on that could be irritating, and the skin responds in kind. However, this is why with ongoing use, a lot of people, unless you happen to have a retinol allergy, with ongoing use, you can get over that hump, as they say, and continue to use retinol, and you will experience fewer and fewer of these irksome but not too serious side effects. Very different, though, if we're talking about a true allergic reaction. Common symptoms of a retinal dermatitis would be you notice some scaling or flaking after a few days of use. You may feel some itching. You may see some redness in the areas where the retinol was applied. And generally, some people, this is what happens to me if I use too much retinol at once, is I get what I describe as a sunburn-like reaction where I don't see any redness. My skin doesn't necessarily feel hot to the touch, but if you've ever had a sunburn, you know kind of that internal feeling you get where the skin just kind of feels irritated. Paula's Choice takes several different formulary steps throughout the process with all of our retinol-containing products to ensure that we are minimizing that likelihood as much as humanly possible. And it will vary from person to person. It's been theorized that people who have different types of itchy nose, different types of atopic dermatitis, eczema being a subclass of that, are more likely to experience a retinol-like dermatitis. There's different theories as to why. The prevailing one tends to be that when you have atopic dermatitis, your skin's barrier substances, its ceramides, hyaluronic acid, cholesterol, other various fatty acids, are either in short supply or the ratios are imbalanced, and that makes it easier for anything that could be potentially irritating to cause an even greater impact. So for those of you who have experienced retinal dermatitis and lived to tell about it, I'm sure you'll agree with me that the results are worth it. It's kind of an inconvenience for a while. Your skin may look a little flaky or even red, but you keep with it and you get through it, and then you come out the other side with your skin looking amazing, and then you don't have to worry about the retinal dermatitis happening again because your skin gets the message, hey, this is okay, this is actually good, this is supposed to happen. Calm down, corneodesmosomes, you know? and things get back into balance. Equilibrium is restored. The other thing to keep in mind is that you may experience just because you experience a reaction to a retinol product does not automatically mean you cannot use that vitamin A ingredient at all. It may well mean that you need to use a lower strength. It may well mean that you need to look at what you're using at the same time as the retinol product and potentially separate application. And this is not because any combination of ingredient with retinol like niacinamide or vitamin C somehow renders it ineffective. Those are myths. There's plenty of research showing that those ingredients play well together, and actually, in the case of vitamin C, can actually help retinol work even better because it has a nice stabilizing influence. Retinol is a delicate ingredient. It does not like light or air. It breaks down relatively quickly. This is why we don't recommend retinol products or any type of vitamin A product for that matter that's packaged in a jar or a clear container, because that is a surefire way to guarantee pretty much from the first use that the retinol is going to become less and less effective. All right, let's see what is on your mind today about retinol. Eileen wanted to know if we will ever make baby products or label products that are okay to use with baby. We've toyed with doing a baby-specific line over the years, Eileen. We've never done it. Our Earth-sourced line was marketed for a while as great for mom and baby because a lot of people like natural skincare, and they theorize that if it's natural, it's going to be better and safer to use on their children's skin. Isn't necessarily true. There's good and bad natural and synthetic ingredients. I always say, think of poison ivy. It's actually kind of a pretty plant, but you would not ever want to rub that on your baby's skin, or your own for that matter. Whereas other ingredients like silicones are perfectly safe to use on an infant's skin. Silicones being a broader group of ingredients, but generally the type of silicones that you find in skincare products are fine. They're fine for skin. They're not going to harm you. They're actually pretty neutral in the grand scheme of things. What's missing in a lot of baby care products are fragrance-free options. And so because our entire lineup is fragrance-free, and we have body care products, we have body moisturizers, we have our all over hair and body shampoo, we have a conditioner. Some babies don't necessarily need conditioner for their hair, but that varies, of course. If you have a kid that has a lot of hair or very curly hair, my son has curly hair, I use a conditioning shampoo on him and then another conditioning product. But even when, I'll just use him as an example, I used the Paula's Choice all over hair and body shampoo as a wash for him when he was very small. Either that one or Aquaphor/Eucerin, at least at the time, made a good one. I don't know if they still do or not. And that was acceptable as well. So generally, the other thing, Eileen, is that baby care products, they tend to be exclusive. Not exclusive. Let me check in real quick here just to make sure this. Brands that do baby care tend to just do that type of product, and we are more facial skincare oriented. It's not that kids can't use our products, but the majority of our products, I would say, are best for the teen through adult years. We have a lot of products, as you likely know, that are about anti-aging, acne, dark spots, most of those being concerns that infants and babies don't have to worry about. And of course, any of our sunscreens can be used on the little ones. I have a preference for the mineral-based titanium dioxide and or zinc oxide because they're so gentle. And if the kid gets the sunscreen like on their finger and then rubs their eye, it's not going to sting. Let me just really quick follow up here. Okay. And our social media guru, Allie, wanted to make sure that I discussed how to counteract sensitization from retinol as one point. If you do experience sensitization from retinol, the first order of business is to evaluate, well, how strong is the sensitized reaction? You know, what happened? Let's sign in here real quick. Generally speaking, you probably wouldn't even have to do much of anything other than make sure that you, for at least for a few days, eliminate any other product in your routine that contains a high concentration of a more active type ingredient, because you want to make sure that you give your skin not only time to recover, but that you also rule out what may have been a co-conspirator in what happened with the retinol. In other words, if you're piling on like a high-strength exfoliant, a vitamin C product, a high-strength one of those, and a higher-strength retinol product, it may not be the retinol alone that did it, but the combination of those three applied all at once. And therefore, the solution would just be to separate application. The other thing to do is two things. You can either consider stepping down to a lower strength of retinol once your skin has gotten back to normal, reintroduce it again, and then reintroduce it without adding any of your other more active products again, so you can determine how is my skin responding just to this retinol product. Now, a gentle toner is fine. Of course, your gentle cleanser, a gentle moisturizer. Can't go wrong with any from Paula's Choice because we formulate around that whole concept when it comes to the products for your skin. The other thing would be to look at the frequency of use, again, once your skin is back to normal. And because retinol has a longer half-life on the skin. So in other words, what you put on the skin in day one and day two, it can build up a little bit. Not like build up on hair, but it just takes a longer amount of time in the skin to completely break down once it's delivered properly. And it gets past that barrier where it's more susceptible to breaking down with the oxygen that's all around us. So those are my main tips. If your reaction to the retinol product is more severe, First of all, if you're definitely concerned about it, you'll want to contact your healthcare provider, follow his or her advice, or at the very least discuss it with a pharmacist. I have a feeling that either a doctor or a pharmacist would recommend that you apply short-term a over-the-counter hydrocortisone product. Aveeno makes a good one. There's different options from brands like Cortisone 10. Any major drugstore chain is going to have their version of it. They're pretty much all fragrance-free, which completely makes sense because it's an anti-inflammatory, anti-irritant product. Fragrance can trigger both. And you simply use that product as directed. Generally, you'll want to use it for about 7 to 10 days, but if your healthcare provider tells you something different, follow that course because they're aware of your specific situation and can see you or have seen you and they just have more insight into your health history. Okay, let's see. We covered Elaine's question. Poppy has a couple. I have a question about SPF filters. Is it safe to mix mineral and chemical SPF? In the morning, I use mineral SPF, and then 2 hours later, I reapply with a chemical SPF because it was the only thing in my purse. I think that's fine. What you don't want to do, what you're doing, Poppy, is reapplying or layering 2 different sunscreens over the other. That is different from, for example, you have 2 different sunscreens. This one is the so-called chemical filters like avobenzone and oxybenzone. This one's the mineral filters, titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, and you're kind of doing this. And then, shaking the bottle, and you're basically creating a whole new emulsion with 2 different sunscreens. That I don't advise. Not a good idea. Even if it's not even a good idea to do that if the 2 sunscreens have the same types of active ingredients. The reason for that is because those sunscreens in their entirety are tested as is to achieve or to get the SPF rating that's on the label. If you mix in an entirely different type of sunscreen, even if it has the same actives, because there can be just stability nuances that can impact how that behaves on the skin, and you really don't know when you're doing that type of mixing how you're impacting the SPF rating one way or the other. In theory, you are boosting the SPF because you're putting more active ingredients together, but by how much is an unknown. So yeah, I think what you did in terms of the reapplication is fine. I wouldn't worry about that. It's kind of the same principle if you put, let's say your foundation has sunscreen, and most foundations with sunscreen tend to use the mineral sunscreens, not only because they're super gentle and most people who use foundation are going to put it right around their eye, if not like right on their eyelid area, which is great. It can make a great base for eyeshadow once you set it with powder. But both of the mineral pigments used in a foundation are also going to contribute to that product's coverage level. Titanium dioxide actually does double duty as an opacifying agent, and for certain shades of foundation, particularly for very light complexions like mine, they actually use titanium dioxide as a pigment because it helps create those lighter shades, and it can temper the iron oxide pigments, which pretty much any foundation will contain, because on a lighter skin tone, too much of the iron oxide pigment without titanium dioxide can cause the lighter shade to go on too yellow or even orangey, and that's just not going to look right if you're have a fair skin tone like I do. On the other end of the color spectrum, if you have a gorgeous dark skin tone, chances are any foundation used is going to contain much less, if any, titanium dioxide, because an overabundance of that on a darker skin tone is going to cause the color to read grayish or look ashen, possibly even sallow. There are ways to counterbalance that. I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole about that. But what the point I was making was, because most foundations with sunscreen were going to contain a mineral sunscreen, if you are applying a chemical sunscreen as part of your daytime moisturizer, there's no need to worry about applying a mineral SPF on top of that. The two will complement each other, and layering one over the other is not the same as mixing them in one new container, for example, and then hoping for the best with that type of sunscreen. Poppy goes on to say, I adore Paula's Choice products and team. You are great. I have many Paula's Choice at home with my husband and common clinical line we adore. Hi from Slovenia. Thank you, Poppy. Dana asks, is the 1% retinol cream the same strength as PC's 1% retinol? Is there a difference between strengths if they are plant versus animal based? There's synthetic retinol, and then there's animal derived retinol. There is to the best of my knowledge, there's no such thing as plant derived retinol. There are some plants that contain trace amounts of vitamin A, but you'd have to use an awful lot from that plant to get the equivalent of what a synthetic retinol can do. Paula's Choice uses synthetic retinol, and that is because the only other choice, if you want pure retinol, is the animal-derived kind. It typically comes from cow, and we don't use animal-derived ingredients. At least some of our products contain animal-derived ingredients, but this would be like a direct animal ingredient, and we no longer use those ingredients, and we're phasing them out of the products that do contain them, just to clarify. So Dana, I'm not sure if you're asking about the clinical 1% retinol or the one versus the 1% retinol booster, or if is there a difference between strengths if they're plant versus animal based? I mean, 1% is going to be 1%, whether it's synthetic or the animal based kind. There are some brands, Josie Marin comes to mind. She's touting a retinol-like ingredient that I think she says comes from a certain type of algae or some sort of a pigment from algae. It's not the same thing though. I mean, you could call it a bioretinol or whatever name you want, but it isn't the same molecularly and functionally as pure retinol. It's sort of like the whole story with bakuchiol. It delivers many of the same benefits as retinol because it works, it influences some of the same sites in skin that retinol can, but it goes about doing it differently. Skin cells don't have receptor sites for bakuchiol, they do for retinol. And then separate from that, bakuchiol delivers some of its own benefits that you don't get with retinol. That's one of the reasons that we liked combining it in our new clinical product, is that you're getting the tried and true results from a well-studied ingredient, that being retinol, along with the exciting benefits of a up-and-coming ingredient, bakuchiol. And there's that nice synergy between them, and then each delivers in their own special way. Bakuchiol is a much more potent antioxidant. In fact, its antioxidant ability is part of how it helps stabilize retinol in a formula on your skin. One more reason we like putting the two together. There are other ways to stabilize retinol, bakuchiol. That was something we came across in the research and thought, well, that's really intriguing. Didn't know that. There were other things we were looking at, and we came across that, and we're like, oh, that's really cool. John says, hello, Brian. Not a retinol-related question, but have you got any intention of coming up with another all-mineral tinted sunscreen for dry skin? The Resist Tinted SPF is great, but too dry for me. John, have you tried the Essential Glow SPF from our Defense collection? It doesn't have a tint per se, but it does have a little bit of that pigmentation that will create the mineral pigment that creates a bit of a glow, actually a really nice healthy glow on the skin. That's the one my husband uses. He loves it. If you are looking for a true tint though, that Resist Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense is the option from us at this moment. It's possible down the road we'll do something for dry skin. We've experimented with a few different options and come up with some really interesting formulas that unfortunately, as they moved through the different stages of development, there were one or another problem that kept us from going any further. Sometimes that happens with sunscreens. They are a tough bunch of products to formulate and really get right because there's so many boxes to check. And first and foremost in our mind, when we're doing such products, separate from the importance of their broad spectrum sun protection and hitting that SPF 30 or greater target, we want to create SPF products that our customers love using. Doesn't mean that all of you are going to like every one of our SPFs the same. That's one of the reasons we have so many, is so that we can cater to different preferences, different skin types. We have lighter weight sunscreens, creamier sunscreens. I wish we had a nice tinted formula for dry skin. What you could try, John, if you find that the tint of that it works for your skin tone, you could try putting on a more emollient facial moisturizer underneath, or even a thin layer of our oil booster, which if you haven't tried and you have dry skin, you will thank me for later. Another option would be our CBD Skin Transformative Treatment Milk, which has a very thin, almost fluid-like texture, but it's an oil-rich formula. So if you find applying a straight oil or blend of oils just still feels a little too heavy or too slick for you, that CBD milk, plus then you'll get the benefits of CBD and all the cool anti-inflammatory ingredients that are along for the ride in that formula. Not just along for the ride, but they're actually doing things. That could work really well under that super light daily wrinkle defense. And then you'll kind of be able to have your cake and eat it too. And it's not even a question, at least if I'm thinking this through correctly, of you adding another product, because chances are you're already using some sort of a hydrator in the morning under your SPF. A lot of people with dry skin have to go that route because most sunscreens on the market, facial sunscreens, tend to be formulated on the lighter weight side. They don't have those richer emollients that a dry skin needs because the overwhelming consumer preference in survey after survey about sunscreens is for them to feel lightweight. And if you ask people, what's the one reason you don't wear sunscreen on your exposed skin, which is for most of us is going to be face and hands, every day, and they'll say they feel too greasy, they feel too heavy, something along those lines. It's all about the aesthetics. It's not about them being unaware of the importance of it. They just don't like how they feel. So it's a balancing act. Dana says, hi, just saw I left out the comparison brand name. Oh, it's the Drunk Elephant 1% retinol cream. The same strength as PC's 1% retinol. Yes, it's 1%, 1%. As far as I know, Drunk Elephant is using a synthetic retinol. I can double check and see if they're referring to it as plant-based, and if they are, I'd be curious as to who they're sourcing that from. Like I said, I'm not aware of how one would go about getting true retinol from a plant source. It's pretty much either synthetic or from an animal. Bijou says, yay, finally I'm able to catch one of your live chats. Yay, welcome, welcome, welcome. And then Derek says, hi, Brian, are there any specific benefits of using retinol alongside a prescription retinoid like Retin-a, assuming the skin is able to handle without irritation, or is it just overkill? Great question, Derek. I think there, in terms of specific benefits, it's really a matter of concentration and how your skin responds. As I've said before, you never want to tip the scales in favor of irritation. If you find, what it comes down to is experimenting, and if you find that combination of the prescription product with the over-the-counter retinol product, regardless of the strength, if that seems to be working better for you and you're not getting any kickback, then yes, I think that there is some compelling reason to try both of them, and with the hope of getting even greater results than using one by itself would deliver. Was there another part to your question? Yeah, that last part of your question where you asked, or is it just overkill? It certainly could be, and so maybe the best option, depending on how your skin responds, is, and again, experimentation is the name of the game. You could take a look at putting the prescription retinoid product on one night, and then on the other night you put your retinol on, or you could use your prescription retinoid product on its own at night, follow with moisturizer, the rest of your skincare routine, eye cream and whatnot, and then during the day, you could put your retinol product on under your sunscreen. It is a misconception that you cannot use, or you're not supposed to use, retinol or any other retinoid during the day. If you are finishing your morning skincare routine with a broad spectrum sunscreen, and if you're using retinol, particularly for anti-aging, I sure as heck hope you are, because you're not giving the without doing that step, the sunscreen in the morning, you're not giving the retinol a fighting chance to really show you what it's capable of. And at the same time, you're making your skin more susceptible to sun damage. That's the concern about using a retinol product during the day, but you can negate that concern by making sure that you apply a well-formulated broad-spectrum sunscreen after your retinol product. And then if you find that using retinol or prescription retinoid during the day works better for you in terms of what you like using in the evening, then great. Just make sure you follow with your sunscreen. Let's wrap with a couple of other things that Allie wanted me to discuss. Why I would choose, or why you should choose retinol over other anti-aging ingredients. There are a lot, as you well know, of anti-aging ingredients out there that can address aging, the signs of aging from different perspectives, different modes of action, working along different pathways in skin. Why to use retinol over any of these others? I don't think you have to make that choice. In other words, I think if you can tolerate retinol, if your skin likes it, I think you should use it in some fashion. There's just, it is kind of the alpha and omega of anti-aging ingredients, simply because of how much research has been done about it. It's a brilliant ingredient if you are dealing with signs of aging and clogged pores and breakouts, because it has a fundamental positive net change on the pathogenesis of those conditions. One way or another, it's going to improve those conditions. Not all by itself. You'll still need other products, different key ingredients to deal with all of the facets of something like acne. But to not include a retinol product as part of an acne routine, particularly if you're also seeing signs of aging, and you know your skin can tolerate retinol, it's like you're missing out. But are you missing out if your skin can't tolerate retinol, and therefore you have to look to other anti-aging ingredients? You're really only missing out on the specific activity retinol has in skin. It does not mean, though, that you're left out in the cold in terms of, you can't use retinol, therefore you're going to look much older than everyone around you who is happily using retinol. There are a lot of anti-aging ingredients you can consider as an alternative to retinol for things like wrinkles, fine lines, dark spots, firming, uneven texture, enlarged pores, clogged pores, dehydration, loss of radiance. All of those things retinol can work on to one degree or another, but so can a lot of other anti-aging ingredients. To me, I would want to clarify that it's not retinol or every other anti-aging ingredient. A brilliant, well thought out, really effective skincare routine is going to give your skin all kinds of great ingredients. Retinol can be but one of them. It happens to have a lot of research behind it, which is kind of why it's risen to the top of the heap. I would say nipping at its heels is vitamin C. Vitamin C, in fact, is an excellent alternative to retinol if you can't tolerate that, but there's no reason you can't use retinol and vitamin C together in your routine, even at the same time. Let me finish up, because I'm not seeing new questions come in, and I'm wondering if something's going on with just the chat feature and your ability to send me questions. If so, I apologize. But let me give you a quick rundown of our retinol products. We had, now of course I'm not going to be able to find it on our site. Let's see if it's this. Ah, here it is. Okay. Really, really cool redone page on our retinol. So we have a selection of products that we term retinol for beginners, and those would be our lower strength retinol products. Retinol is effective in a wide range of strengths. Really, our lowest is 0.01%, but you could even go lower than that and still get some efficacy. 0.01 to 0.1% is kind of that nice sweet spot for beginners, and there's good research supporting those strengths, and then we go higher up. So we have our skin recovery serum and our barrier repair moisturizer. Each of those contains 0.01%, as well as the Resist Intensive Repair Cream. Excuse me, just as an example, in terms of seeing how your skin does when you add more retinol, if you have normal to dry skin, you could try using our Skin Recovery Super Antioxidant Concentrate Serum, which has 0.01% retinol, and then add in the Resist Intensive Repair Cream, which has the same amount of retinol. So you're essentially doubling up on that. Or if you have additional concerns and want to incorporate some vitamin C, peptides, other age-fighting ingredients specifically aligned with like firming, the ceramide-enriched facial moisturizer also has that strength of retinol. That's our beginner lineup, followed by the 0.03% concentration that's in the Skin Balancing Serum. So that's 0.03, where then we have our, oops, sorry, I misspoke. The 0.01% concentration of retinol is in the ceramide-enriched firming eye cream. The facial moisturizer, I thought that was wrong as soon as I said it out loud. The facial moisturizer in clinical, the ceramide facial moisturizer has 0.1% retinol. So that, the facial moisturizer in clinical, ceramide, firming, more retinol than the eye cream counterpart. That same amount of retinol, 0.1%, is what we consider mid-strength or intermediate users. That is the amount of retinol that's in our skin smoothing body treatment with retinol, which can be amazing if you have that sun-damaged décolleté, or if you're dealing with those texture changes where the skin starts to look a bit more crepe-like. It's really wonderful at smoothing out those areas, including on the arms. Again, you got to be good about the sunscreen and commit to not tanning. If you're just going to keep sun tanning indoors and out, you're not going to do much to improve. Retinol won't do much to improve the texture issue that can happen as a result of too much sun exposure. I know. I wish back when I was smoking, I would love to think that if I just eat enough green vegetables, I can counteract the damage that smoking was doing. And thankfully, I don't have any, at least not yet, that I've noticed any lasting effects. But I'm certainly glad I quit. 0.1% retinol is also the amount that is in the Resist Intensive Wrinkle Repair Retinol Serum, which is why that serum sits in Resist, because that's more of our potent. Resist is more about not just age prevention, but also repairing existing signs of aging, whereas the skin recovery, skin balancing formulas are more about routines that work for your skin type that also deliver anti-aging and benefits for those who are younger and not necessarily seeing much in the way of aging right now, but they don't want to see them later on, and they need a good routine that corresponds with their skin type. Skin type is, I don't want to say secondary in Resist, but Resist was formulated first and foremost to deliver great results on visible signs of aging, as well as working to prevent further signs of aging. The retinol skincare that we have for what we would call advanced users, it's not that you couldn't jump in to any of these strengths and see how your skin does, but if you are new to retinol, the general advice, and I do think this is good advice, is to start with a lower concentration and then work up. And as I mentioned earlier, you could also layer 2 different products or even 3 different products with retinol at different strengths and see how your skin does. Particularly if those retinol formulas contain other ingredients that deliver different benefits that dovetail perfectly with your concerns. I mean, that's win-win. But the 3 that we have that we consider for advanced users, 2 of them contain a whopping 1% concentration, that being the Resist, not the Resist, it used to be in Resist. It's now in just Boost, the 1% retinol booster, and then our clinical 1% retinol treatment. They're both for all skin types. The 1% retinol booster is a very different formula, very different texture than the 1% retinol treatment. They're both chock full of anti-aging ingredients. I would say if you tend toward drier skin, you'll like the 1% retinol treatment better. And if you tend toward oily, clog / breakout prone skin, you'll love the 1% retinol booster. It's super light, really silky. I think the 1% retinol treatment feels nice as well, but being a combination skin type, I prefer the booster. And then last but not least is our new kid on the block. That is our clinical 0.3% retinol and 2% bakuchiol treatment. Now, why is that one in the advanced user collection, whereas a lot of other brands that sell retinol at 0.3% would put that concentration in the mid-strength or intermediate grouping? And actually, I would agree with that, but because we're using bakuchiol at 2%, the research looking at the effectiveness of bakuchiol on different parameters of aging started with a 0.5% concentration and then upwards of a 1% concentration. We wanted to create a mid-strength retinol product whose results came very, very close, if not exactly matched, those of our 2 1% retinol products for those people who found that their skin cannot tolerate a 1% strength. So the synergy between the retinol and the bakuchiol, with the bakuchiol doing a lot of the same things in skin that retinol does and enhancing skin's tolerability to retinol, we thought that the 0.3 and 2% combination made a lot of sense and got great results from it. I love this product, and I'm someone that has struggled with different strengths of retinol in the past. Our intensive wrinkle repair retinol serum at 0.1%, up until we had this new clinical product with the bakuchiol, that was the only retinol product in our line I could use nightly without incident. The 1% retinol booster, I kind of stepped back from that one. Although prior to us launching this new clinical one, I was using the 1% retinol booster at least 3 nights a week. And then on that night, I wouldn't put the intensive wrinkle repair serum on, unless I was being, a little daring. And I probably was just being a bit reticent because I still think back to those teen years when I had acne and was using Tretinoin, and it wasn't one of the most elegant formulations. There wasn't really much to it. I doubt it had an interesting delivery system. And as a result, I got some pretty painful, to say nothing of unsightly, side effects from using prescription Tretinoin. So that is our lineup. We put the retinol bakuchiol combo under the banner of advanced users because the synergy between those two is going to get you very close, if not equivalent, to what a 1% will do. But it's brilliant for people who found that their skin can't tolerate 1% retinol. That's why I put it down there. Just tried to make it more equivalent in that sense. So let's see. I'll go back to video. Not seeing any new questions coming in, so we have there's a few minutes left, but I've been prattling on as I do. So I think I'm going to end this one a little bit early. I will be back next week. What are we talking about next week? Allie does such a good job assigning all of these topics in advance. What do I have on my calendar for next week? Ooh, we're going to talk about CBD next week. That'll be fun. I have to brush up on my CBD-ness. I do think that's a really interesting ingredient. I think that as with any new ingredient, particularly one that's natural. And you could say the same thing for bakuchiol. It's the hype has overall been blown out of proportion. But do I think CBD or bakuchiol, for that matter, are gimmicky? No, absolutely not. They're newer, and you're seeing and hearing a lot about them. But from the Paula's Choice perspective, if there is legitimate research showing a benefit for skin, and if we can weave those ingredients into one of our formulas in the very unique way we put together those formulas, then we'll do it. We want to offer a competitive group of products that is going to make a wide group of people happy and give you the ingredients that you're asking for and curious about. But again, they have to be supported by good research. It's interesting with CBD. I'll talk more about this next week. See, I do prattle on. I've seen some quotes from different dermatologists and other people in the field who say that there really isn't any research showing that topical CBD does anything for skin. We don't know about dosage or concentration, let me put it that way, which is true. Concentration protocols for CBD in skincare have not been established. But to say that there's no research proving that it can do anything for skin is wrong. There may not be a ton of it, but what has come out thus far is actually really exciting. It's another unique, it's another ingredient for skin that works in a unique way. And we wanted to offer you the best possible product we knew how to make with that. That's the CBD Skin Transforming Treatment Milk that will soon be available on Paula's Choice. And we'll go all about the ins and outs of CBD and skincare and what the research really says. I'll have the full report on that next week. You guys come back, bring your CBD related questions or anything else that's on your mind about skincare and ingredients, and I'll do my best to get to all your questions. So until then, take care.